Thank you very much for joining today's online event about HMS Smart Grid Gateways, IEC61850, IC104, industrial protocols like Profibus and Profinet, and of course the Willtech management software for large-scale deployments and secure remote access via VPN. I'm here together with Martin Matt, product manager for Smart Grid at HMS, and I'm Jost Senner, CTO from Willtech.
Thanks a lot. Also a warm welcome from my side. I'm super happy about the huge number of attendees, which just shows the importance of this topic.
Great, Martin. Thanks a lot. So before we start, you have the possibility to ask questions at any time. The session takes around 30 minutes, and after that we plan 15 minutes for questions and answers. If there are more questions, we can also extend. So please feel free to ask those questions during the full time of the webinar, and of course also at the end. Regarding the agenda, we'll have a short look at the cooperation between HMS and Willtech and why it's needed and what kind of benefits and value it brings to you. Then we look into the HMS Smart Grid Gateways, the functionality interfaces, how to connect multiple things. Then we go into the Willtech SmartMS management software, how to scale up devices, how to provision devices, and how to maintain devices. Talk about remote access with central VPN Security Suite, and go into typical application examples, and then following with the Q&A session. Okay, over to you, Martin. What can the Smart Grid Gateways do?
Thank you a lot, Jos. First of all, I think it's interesting to know why we collaborate, where this cooperation comes from. So we from HMS, we are mainly communication specialists. This is our expertise for decades now. And we were thinking about what could be the next big thing in the market of communication. And to us, it was pretty clear that the energy transition we see now is a big topic. So we see three main drivers which increases the need of further communication in the energy distribution networks, which is first of all the growth of renewable energies. So back in the days, we just had big power plants. You could switch on and off. You could regulate the amount of power they produce and convert. But with renewables, it's not that easy. So we have weather dependencies, we have time dependencies. So there's this huge change we see there. Second big thing is the growth of electric mobility. So more and more people are buying electric vehicles, and when they plug in these cars in their chargers, we have a huge jump of power consumption from, let's say, 2 to 3 kilowatts per private household. It jumps up to 15, 20, 25 kilowatts power consumption. And this is something the traditional power distribution network is not made for. And the third driver is the growth of the so-called prosumers, which is a mixture of producers and consumers. So more and more private households are installing solar panels on their roof. Some farmers have biogas stations. So there is a growth of group that feeds back energy into the grid. Bidirectional charging is also a topic here. So all these are things the traditional power distribution network is not made for and must be adapted. And to be able to know what has to be changed, of course, information is the key. So before you know what to change, you need to know what is going on in your power distribution network. So we came up from HMS with the Smart Grid Gateway, which is a very small handy device that can basically collect all this data you might have in the field. We can also interconnect industrial equipment, everything that might be important to get more knowledge about what is going on in your power distribution network. And we are very proud of this device. But when it comes to the installation, it doesn't make sense to just install one or two or just a handful of these devices. You need a broad view. You need a whole fleet of devices in the field. And therefore, we were looking for a solution. We from HMS, we did not have anything suitable to manage a huge load of devices in the field. So we were looking who we could partner up with, and then we approached Willtech and saw that you have a lot of expertise with this management software. You have good knowledge we can profit from, and this is basically where this cooperation came from. But Jos, can you tell us a little more about the Willtech Smart EMS system?
Great, thank you, Martin. Yeah, so Willtech is originally coming from industrial routers over LTE, for example. We connect distribution substation, we connect also industrial applications, industrial setups. Nowadays, we also require more and more different types of protocols where the strength of HMS is. And because we manage those large fleets in smart grids already with many DSOs and TSOs, we also have set central management software for our devices, so for our industrial routers, for our edge gateways. They're installed hundreds, thousands, or tens of thousands in DSOs. And this software helps you to register, to manage gateways, to make firmware upgrades, and so on. And in addition to that, also provides you with an easy possibility to build up VPN connections so that you can also connect to the devices, have a secure way, have a central VPN concentrator, and all those processes are automated. This solves a lot of issues. So if you, for example, have RTUs that just need the Ethernet connection, can go with an industrial router. But if you want to convert those protocols, you can take the HMS gateways. They can be provisioned with the same software that you use for your industrial routers or Willtech edge gateways. And there you can grab those information from serial devices, from analog sensors, and send them directly to the cloud system. And all those large fleets of devices can be managed with the central management software. If you're looking at the full picture, we have the Willtech device management that can manage industrial routers, edge gateways. We have the VPN Security Suite that can manage those VPN antennas. And then we have the HMS gateways that are very, very strong in multiple protocol applications. So you can have Profibus from the industrial side, Profinet, but also Modbus, CAN bus, Ethernet IP, and of course the electricity protocols like 61850, 101, 104. And analog and digital inputs. And those data can be converted and can be sent via OPC UA, MQTT, for example, to cloud systems, and then you can do your data collection control and everything from there. Together with the VPN concentrator, you can also have the remote access to the HMS gateways, but not only to the HMS gateways, but also the devices that are connected to them. So you have a data flow that is continuously managed, and with the Willtech management software, you can maintain and manage large-scale fleets. Over to you, Martin, to talk a little bit about the HMS gateways, please.
Thanks. Yeah, let's have a deeper look on the SG gateway. You see it very prominent on the right side. So compared to the RJ45 ports, you see it's a really small device compared to the feasibility it has. So that was super important to make it easy to retrofit and to put it in existing cabinets, for example. On the bottom of the page, you see the huge variety of interfaces we support. So Jos mentioned most of them already. So when we are talking about this retrofitting applications, it's super important to be able to integrate existing equipment that's already out there in the field. And therefore, we cannot dictate towards the customer what protocols they have to use, but we must adapt to what is already there. So we added as much as possible in the small handy device. So you can see southbound connectivity. We support Modbus RTU, Modbus TCP. We have GPIOs with analog and digital inputs. We even can hook up to industrial equipment using Profinet, Profibus, or Ethernet IP. We from HMS have a lot of expertise in the industrial communication, we have several millions of devices in the field that are integrated or connected to industrial systems. So for us, it was a no-brainer to also integrate that in the ESG Gateway. There's a lot of applications there as well. Then southbound is basically, that's it. Northbound connectivity, we also have a lot of protocols we support. For example, IEC61850, maybe the most important one nowadays. We also support 104 and DNP3. So to cover the energy distribution SCADA systems. Cloud-based systems are becoming more and more important nowadays. So some companies are setting up a second system additional to their SCADA and are using cloud-based connectivity. So therefore, we have OPC UA and MQTT in place to be able to connect to Microsoft Azure or Amazon AWS systems or proprietary systems that support OPC UA and or MQTT connectivity. For 6150 and 104, we don't only support the server function, which means that we simulate a device in the field. We can also simulate a client, which would be comparable to a small SCADA system. So one application example could also be to not just gather data from Modbus, GPIO, or industrial equipment. We can also collect data from 61850 equipment and use this in our small device. When we are talking about this huge amount of data, we must somehow be able to handle this. We cannot just forward the data from one source to one target. There's several sources we have. There's several targets we can send the data to. So we implemented a PLC, a small PLC in the device. And throughout our development process, we realized that most technicians and engineers in the energy distribution are not full-fledged programmers. So we cannot expect from them to go super deep into coding and stuff. So we spent a lot of time and came up with this great idea of a graphical programming interface. We got a lot of very positive feedback out of the market that it's super easy to hook up a proof of concepts and small functional samples with this graphical programming interface. So you don't need to read through APIs and documentation. You can just access the device through your web browser. So you don't need external software, which is also in some companies very hard to achieve. So this is not needed. You can just access the device through your web browser using the Ethernet port and then have access to all the details of the configuration. A small thing I wanted to mention as well is sometimes substations or equipment you might want to know more about is on very distant locations. They might not have internet access, or they don't have Ethernet access to your own network, or it is forbidden to hook up additional equipment in the existing network. And therefore, we also implemented LTE modems for worldwide coverage, and we have LoRaWAN available. This can be used as a primary transmission channel, or in case of a backup. So if your main transmission line breaks down, you still have the possibility to get your data through LTE or LoRaWAN. Jos, back to you, I would say.
Great. Thank you very much, Martin. So if you're looking at the management software, what it can do and what you see is it can manage configuration, firmware updates, and do some kind of data diagnostics with various setup of devices. And we have already a large installation with our Willtech routers that you see on the bottom left, with many DSOs and TSOs throughout the world, largely deployed in Europe, but also in South America and Southeast Asia. And then we have also our edge gateways where you can have advanced computing functionalities with cloud integration. And nowadays, we also support the smart grid gateways from HMS. So our customers have the possibility to do or select more devices and have more functionalities. In addition to that, if you have that requirement, we can also use our VPN Security Suite to directly connect RTUs and PLCs so that you don't need a third-party device. And the central management software that we integrated together with HMS solves a lot of challenges and allows you to scale your installations. So what we can do is we can provision devices. So in this case, you just need the electrician to connect power and antenna. You don't need any IT knowledge. This is centrally managed. You also don't need automation knowledge about protocols and those things, what kind of sensors should be pulled. We all can deploy that from central management system through the config rollout. In case of security incidents or functional updates, we can regularly do firmware upgrades. This is a main requirement for energy companies, that they can do that. So one of the IT security requirements that is nowadays mandatory is regular firmware upgrades in case of some kind of security issues. We can also manage the configuration. This includes, for example, the network configuration, what kind of devices are connected, and so on. In addition to that, with the smart grid gateways from HMS, we can also manage the configuration of the protocols, what kind of data can be pulled, what kind of additional data might be needed over time. So you can also manage that centrally for large-scale deployments. In addition to that, we offer a secure VPN connection. So in case you have unsecure protocols or you want to have an additional layer of security, it can all be protected through a central VPN server and also VPN tunnel. And also the VPN management is fully automated. So manual interaction is not needed. And this solves a lot of issues that you might have with security requirements, security issues. What you might also have if you're coming from the OT with your IT department, they have all those requirements, they put it in place, give you some kind of sleepless nights, and together with the management software, you really can solve those issues easily. And it's also liked by many IT departments that something that is really coming from the OT world can seamlessly be integrated in your IT setup. So what is a SmartMS software? It's a central management software for devices. It's a central management software for devices that is already in the field. So it's not a new software. As mentioned before, we have customers with hundreds of devices. We have customers with thousands of devices, and we have customers with tens of thousands of devices that are managed already in industrial applications, but even more in smart grid applications. So tens of thousands of secondary substations are already equipped with Willtech routers and using the device management. And the device management allows you to make this type of rollout and large-scale rollout very easy, secure. You have a device registration. You have a process that can scale up. The software is not running as software as a service somewhere, but it runs really in your dedicated data center, which is crucial for smart grid or electricity companies for IT security reasons. So you can run it in a data center as virtual machine. We can also offer it as a bare metal installation. But if you want, you can also run it in an Azure cloud environment or AWS cloud environment. But it will always be your own installation, and you have the full control over everything. So what you can automate, and automate means no manual human interaction, is a full configuration of the full fleet, the regular firmware updates, security updates, and everything, not only from HMS gateways, but also the other devices that you might use for other applications. And in addition to that, you have a seamless integration in other systems. So we have an API-first approach. So every functionality of the system can be accessed with the API. So in case you have, for example, have an ERP system, you want to make the rollout not as an IT process, but as a business process. You can, for example, do a SAP integration. You can add additional monitoring systems. You can add SCADA systems to monitor the setup of your network. But you can also integrate cloud systems with this API or any other systems that you might have. So all this leads to a way that you have a zero-touch provisioning. Zero-touch provisioning means that you just need to install those devices and everything else is fully automated, and you don't need large-scale IT departments. Oh, sorry. In addition to that, so we talked about the device management, we also have a secure VPN connection. This can be used, for example, by IT systems. So in case having the connection to your SCADA system or cloud system secured by additional VPN tunnel. Or it can be used to access the HMS gateways or even the devices that are connected to it. So for example, you have RTU connected to Ethernet port, or you have a power quality meter connected to the other Ethernet port. You can also access those devices from IT system or with a remote access. So there's additional access and access right system behind it. So you can granularly scale that and have an additional feature integrated. And this allows you not only to collect those data with smart gateways, but also have more functionality in terms of remote maintenance management. If you, for example, have some kind of battery storage or generator connected to one of those smart grid gateways, it might be needed that you have some manual access to it, manual maintenance, manual settings, and this is also possible. So our VPN Security Suite is made out of 3 parts. We talked a little bit about the device management. This is the SmartMS, which can do the configuration management, which can upgrade the firmware, but it can also upgrade the VPN configuration. It can manage the VPN configuration. It can change the VPN configuration. So this can be done centrally. We then have the PKI infrastructure, which generates certificates. If you want to have security in your smart grid application, you need to have certificates. This is a mandatory requirement from standard IT security setups, but it's extremely complex. And especially if you don't have a very large scale IT department, it's very difficult to manage. And this is something that is also fully automated, integrated, and you don't need to take care too much about this. And then, of course, the core thing is the VPN concentrator. So every single device is building up a VPN tunnel to the central VPN concentrator that is running, for example, in your data center, for example, next to your SCADA system, but it could also be in a different data center. It can also run in the cloud, or we can set up a server, which is a hardware, and ship it to you, and you just install it in your central environment. Okay, back to you, Martin. Please talk a little bit about the different application examples that we have.
Yes, thank you. So we saw now what the SG Gateway can do. We saw what the Willtech software solutions can do. So now what can we achieve with these components together? And therefore we have this example. We prepared 2 examples, but I think with the versatility of the SG Gateway and the Willtech software, there's many more applications this can be used in. So coming to this example, on the right side at the bottom, you see this red square, and this is mostly the so-called critical path. So most energy distribution companies, they define this critical path. There's a lot of requirements to fulfill: redundant power source, redundant communication. Everything must be super fail-safe. Everything is super expensive. And that's the problem. So the communication chain between the SCADA system throughout the substation bus down to the switchgear or the RTUs is already covered very well. And in most cases all over the world, it's very stable. So if you want to acquire more data out of this network without making it too complicated, a possibility is to open a second transmission channel. And this is what already some customers of us do. So they add additional sensors, they hook them up with the ESG gateway. The ESG gateway can optionally, as I mentioned before, with the client functionality, we can acquire data out of the substation bus. If this is allowed, data diet might be a buzzword some of you might have heard before. And then we can collect this data and forward it to the client's cloud-based visualization or big data analysis system. We even have one customer that uses our onboard PLC, our onboard programming capabilities to automatically hook up the sensors. So a technician just goes there, connects the SG gateway with power and network, and then installs one sensor after the other. It's Modbus RTU sensors, and they are automatically set up in alternating order. And then they have a heat circle, which is managed by the SG gateway. So the technician basically doesn't need access to any of the devices. He just does, he or she just does the wiring, and that's it. If you put Willtech also in this place, it would even be possible to just hook up the SG gateway. The SG gateway automatically connects to the Willtech solution. It automatically receives the fitting configuration from the Willtech server or from the SmartMS system, and then the sensors can be connected. So in the end, it is possible to have a system fully installed without any manual programming or manual work. So we let the machines do the hard part of the job. So this is what you can see in this first example.
Okay, great. Let's come to the second one.
Yeah, second one is not that much different, but this is also something we see. It's dependent in which country we are, but in some countries, the power distribution network is too weak at some points, and you need to adapt to that. So for example, every evening people come home, they plug in their electric vehicles, or they cook food. We have a huge peak in the power consumption, which is not present the rest of the day. So you need a solution to even out this power consumption peaks. And we from HMS, we dig deeper on the battery energy storage systems. So we have good and extensive CAN knowledge, which is mostly used in this battery storage systems, but we can also connect ourselves to gensets throughout Profinet, Profibus, or Ethernet IP. Depending on the size, they communicate using Modbus or one of the industrial protocols. So these additional power sources or power storages can be installed in these situations, but natively they cannot communicate to the SCADA system. So you need something in between, which for the battery or the genset simulates a management system, and you need something that simulates an electrical device towards the SCADA system. And therefore, of course, the SG gateway can be used. And here, the Willtech SmartMS helps us a lot on this side. For example, you can start with hooking up the genset and the battery to the SCADA system. Maybe that's your first step. And then you have a third-party company that takes care of the genset, so they need to know the fuel level. You have a third-party company that takes care of the battery storage system, so they want to know what is the status of the different battery cells, and they might use MQTT or OPC UA to acquire this data. Maybe they also go wireless, so you have a wired connection to the SCADA system and a wireless connection to the management system of the service provider. And this can be done one by one throughout this Willtech SmartMS system. So maybe you start with one thing, then you improve the software, you add additional functionality, you add the second transmission channel, and this can then be rolled out throughout your whole fleet using the Willtech SmartMS in one go. So I think these are two very good examples that shows the power of our combined solution, but there is many, many more. There's no limitations to that.
Great. Thank you very much, Martin. And we are, I think, just in time. 30 minutes are over, and now we come to question and answers. So please feel free to ask your questions. I see that there are plenty already. Let me go through. So the first question is, do you have one version with a modem in board of CPU? I think it's talking about the LTE modem. So you mentioned that before.
Yes. We have different LTE modem variants to be able to cover the whole world. So there's different frequencies in the US than in Europe and in Asia. So we have the whole world covered with our different modem variants.
Okay. Then we have a second question. Can we use fiber-connected relays directly?
That's a very common question. Unfortunately, we don't have fiber connection implemented in the SG gateway, but there is pretty cheap converters from fiber to copper communication, and we have already some applications where exactly this is done. So this would be the kind of workaround.
Okay, great. So then can you buffer data that is not directly transmitted?
This definitely depends on the protocol you're using. So Modbus, for example, is not buffered, but IEC61850 and 104, of course, they support buffered reports, and this is also supported in our device. So if you have a connectivity breakdown and you have a backlog of data, as soon as the communication is back in place, we are transmitting all the data you missed out on these protocols.
Okay, great, thanks. Then the question, is there a central management system because updates and upgrades are difficult? I'll take this. Yes, of course. So the central management system is the Willtech SmartMS. This can do the full configuration updates. It can do firmware upgrades. It can do firmware updates. So this is made for this, and it's developed with TSOs and large vendors together to really fit into the smart grid market. And we have tens of thousands of installations with that type of system already. Then the next one. Which type of REST API the server supports? So I take this. There's a REST API that is documented inside of the server, and it allows you to access every single function. You can so really the REST API was built first, and then our web interface was built on top, where you can do all those management. So every single functionality can also be managed with the web interface. There's some questions on French. I cannot answer those. How about you, Martin?
My French is not very good. I think the second one. I think the question on the second French question is if the security is integrated in the HMS product. Yeah, I think that's the question. So I will try to answer that if it's okay, Jules.
Yes.
Yeah, of course we have some cybersecurity features in the device, but what we say the basis of cybersecurity in these fields of application is the end-to-end encryption, and this can be done by using the Willtech VPN solution. There we have a VPN connection that has an end-to-end encryption, and usually there's no external access possible there. Of course, we have also user management, we have a firewall with whitelisting, etc. But I think the most important thing is to not allow physical access to the network from outside.
Thanks. Maybe let me add something. So if you're talking about cybersecurity, you're always also talking about processes to maintain the cybersecurity. And there we're coming back to the upgrades and updates. This is done through the SmartMS. So this is the key essential part, not only the encrypted connection, but also maintaining cybersecurity and fixing security issues. Then the next question, is the VPN Security Suite already available with the SG Gateway, or is this an add-on? Well, let me take this. So that had two different products that are fully integrated. And of course, you can get access and licenses together with the device. So there's no problem with that. So just get in contact with us, and it seamless integrates. So we can show you how, and then we can talk about your requirements and details about this. Then another question for you, Martin. Are all the protocols available already or in per order basis?
Oh, that's a good question. So the protocols are not always in every device available. So we have hardware and software variants. The software protocols like 61850, 104, Modbus TCP, Modbus RTU, they are pretty much always available. But for the hardware connectivity, you must decide. Do you want to connect to a Profinet device? Then Ethernet IP and Profibus will not be available. If you want to have GPIOs, then the industrial protocols are not available. So therefore, we have different variants. And this is pretty much per order basis, so to speak. But we have a lot of combinations, but not all the protocols at the same time are possible, unfortunately, due to hardware limitations.
Okay, great, thanks. Then does it work with IEC101 and 104? And how?
Unfortunately, we only support 104 so far. We had some requests for 101, but usually in such cases, we could convince the customers to go with Modbus instead. But as of today, we don't support 101 in the SG Gateway.
Okay, thanks. Are there limitations in terms of device integration per SG Gateway? Like what maximum number of IEC61850 devices it can manage?
Yes, of course there are. We support up to 4,096 data points per device. So this is one limitation. And another one is that we support only 32 devices per SG Gateway. So that is the limitations we have on 61850 side. Okay,
thanks. Then the next one, how many smart grid gateways can be managed with the SmartMS? I take that one. So in general, there's no limitation. We have installations with tens of thousands of devices that's working without any issue. And in case you even need to go higher, software, the central software is scaling quite well. It's using a containerized architecture, which is pretty well known from the cloud. So in case you need to have more devices, you need to have more bandwidth, you need to have more upgrades, updates at the same time. You just need to scale up the server resources where the SmartMS is running on. And it's a quite lightweight software, so it doesn't need to become super large. So it's a standard server will be fine for that. If you have special requirements, we can go into detail and discuss it. So then the next one, at decentralized locations, we use S7 from Siemens. Can we use any S7 with Profibus and Profinet? Martin, that's for you.
Yes, you can. So our device is just a Siemens device in that case. You can freely configure the GSD file in the SG Gateway, download it, and feed it into the S7 system from Siemens. And that's basically it. So that's definitely a yes.
Okay, thanks. Can HMS Gateway be also containerized in the EMS on-prem solution?
Jules, please.
Well, unfortunately, it cannot. The HMS Gateway is always coming hardware and software together. So it's a dedicated appliance. It cannot be containerized. But if you have those requirements, it would be very interesting for us to get in contact with you afterwards and discuss your requirements. And then Martin and I can see if we probably can do that as well.
Mm-hmm. There's always room for discussion, yes.
Okay, then the interesting question, who are typical potential customers who could use this kind of solutions? Martin, would you like to start with that?
Okay. I do my best. So there are several potential customers or customer groups. First of all, the grid managers, so the power distribution companies, they might have a need. They want to have more information out of the field, so they might be typical customers for us. Then besides that, there's sometimes contractors who take care of the actual equipment in the field. And these are more interesting for us even because they have a deep interest in additional data out of the field, not just to adapt the field installations, but also to know, okay, when does it reach its end, which equipment is already not working properly, etc. So this is another potential customer. What we also see is that big production facilities have their own power distribution networks, and the management in some cases made the decision they want to combine this data to improve the production, for example, and then they need this interconnectivity between the grid management system and the production management system. So we have this industrial protocols and we have the energy protocols that somehow need to be brought together. And this is also a potential customer group of us, or already existing customers as well. So I made up, or I brought up 3. So Joe's your turn.
Yeah. From our side, it looks a little different. So we already have a lot of TSOs as customers. And those TSOs have already our SmartMS and VPN Security Suite installed. And besides the DSOs, we also have TSOs. And those companies usually use our industrial routers at scale to connect RTUs, power quality measurement devices, some kind of smart metering devices, probably also some kind of sensor devices. And the requirement that's coming up is that they also have part of their devices that have different types of interfaces, which are probably not that standardized. Probably they don't have RTU that can read all those data. And there we need a smart grid gateway that can speak multiple protocols. So for our customers, we had that requirement that they want to have sometimes Profibus connected, that they want to have Profinet connected, CAN bus, for example, for energy storage applications. So because more and more applications are integrated and coming together, also the requirements in the field for more and more devices are required. And that's why we also said, well, it's great to integrate the HMS Gateway into our solutions, because our customers can extend the functionality and we can manage them with the central SmartMS. So you can manage industrial routers of Willtech. If you have hundreds, thousands of routers in the field already, you can just add a few HMS gateways. Of course, if you are a new customer, you can also decide if you want to have 4G routers to connect secondary substations or smart grid gateways to connect, for example, larger substations with different types of protocols, or energy storage with Profibus interfaces. So you become more flexible and have a very wide range of applications that you can manage. Okay, and then the next one, can HMS Gateway be integrated directly with 61850 process bus current voltage switchgear data?
Yes, it can. So the secret is that we don't have this strict 61850 configuration implemented in the device. So we always imagine the SG Gateway as a wide spreadsheet, and you can design, or we can do this for you, whatever SCL file you might need. So you can choose, do you want to simulate an RTU or a measurement unit or a switchgear or anything else? You can just design this SCL file, you can upload it to the SG Gateway, and then we just simulate this device. Or you have an existing device, you just take this SCL or CID file, load it into the SG Gateway in client role, and then we automatically connect to this device. So this can be done for any kind of 61850 equipment according or following the version 1 or version 2.
Okay, great. The next one, is the data sent real time to the cloud, or is it buffered and sent every seconds or minutes?
It's basically sent real time. Yeah.
Okay, great. Then the next one is the Willtech VPN Security Suite part of Willtech EMS suite, or VPN Security Suite can be integrated separately on an already operational EMS? Well, both. So VPN Security Suite can also be integrated in operational element management systems. So EMS stands not for energy management system, but element management system. So it's a device management. So if you have those setups, we can also add the VPN Security Suite to your existing one, or we come with our VPN Security Suite together with our EMS, so we can have this combined solution and integrate both with API interface. So there are multiple possibilities. It would be great to go into a detailed discussion afterwards. Then, is Modbus SCADA comply with security requirements?
No, and to be honest, I don't know of any Modbus version that has any security or complies any security standards. So of course you can use Modbus TCP via a VPN connection, so you have some layer of security, but we don't have anything else in Modbus implemented regarding security. I don't know, Jose, if you have anything there in place.
Well, Modbus is a non-encrypted protocol. If we are using VPN Security Suite, we put end-to-end encryption over it. So you have encryption. You also have data integrity in terms of the VPN, but you don't have data integrity of the protocol. Usually, you don't use Modbus between the gateway and the SCADA system. Usually, you would use 104 with the security extension, or you would use MQTT with the security extension, or with the VPN, and then you have some kind of additional security. If you really want to have security by default, you need to have a protocol that is meeting that requirements. And Modbus is easy and great to use, but it's probably not the best one for northbound connectivity. Okay, then the next one, we currently use SmartMS with Willtech routers. Can I integrate the smart grid gateways into my existing fleet? I'll take that, of course. If you have Willtech routers and you have updated version of our SmartMS, or the latest version, you can also manage the HMS smart grid gateways with it. So it would be a plug and play integration, same as with the routers. You can just add those gateways into your existing fleet. Then another question, how many devices you can manage with Willtech? I think we talked about this. There's no limitation. The largest installations is tens of thousands. So that's no problem, no issue. If you have requirements for more, we just need to scale the server a little bit higher, put some kind of redundancy functionality, and also load sharing in front of this. And we already did that with customers, so there should be no limitation that gives you any limitation in your application. Then, in case it supports IEC 101, would you please clarify how it is connecting between 104 IP interface from site to the nearest telecom device IP interface? Not sure if I understand that.
I'm also struggling with that. From site to the nearest telecom device. I have to pass on this one, to be honest. I don't really know what the question is behind this.
Okay, yeah. Let's get in contact afterwards and clarify your question. So we get in contact with you and see if we can answer your question.
Yeah.
Then the next one, the configuration of HMS are automatically up to date on the computer of the technical personnel.
update on the computer. So I think what is meant if when you connect your computer to the SG gateway, do you always see the recent configuration of the gateway? And this is definitely the case. So everything is running on the SG gateway itself. So if you access the device and you have a look into the configuration, you always see what was just done. So there's no cache, or you don't have a proprietary software on your computer, which might show an older version. You always see what is actually there on the device.
Okay, understood. Then next one, brief difference among remote access with VPN versus SmartMS. I take this one. So with the VPN Security Suite, it's an add-on to SmartMS. So if you have VPN Security Suite, you always get SmartMS. You can use all the functions, but you don't need all the use all the functions of SmartMS. And SmartMS is the device management, so managing the devices in the field. And the VPN Security Suite is a service on top that allows you to not only manage the devices in the field, but also build up a VPN tunnel between the devices and the central VPN Security Suite, and allow you to have bidirectional secured access to the devices behind. So one solution is device management, firmware update, configuration management, and the VPN solution is a remote access, but not only a remote access, but also VPN security. And what solutions do you suggest for data management from consumer metadata and suggested data security? Well, I think we are not too much in the direct metering. The next question is also jumping in that direction regarding DLMS for smart metering. I think it's not within your protocols, is it?
No, it's not. I think with the SG gateway and also for your solutions, Joes, we are more focusing on the transmission of data and what is happening at the end point of this. This is not in our power, I would say. So,
if you have requirements for DLMS and also smart metering, we might have different solutions where we can solve it. So please get in contact with us afterwards, and we can see if we have a solution for you. Then a question is HMS Gateway with 104 available, which also supports SBO.
Yeah, I think SBO is select before operate. That's really a tough one, I can tell you. Integrating this was not so easy, but it is. So yes, that's a yes.
Okay, great. And this was the last question. We are already a little bit over time. I'm very sorry for that, but we had a good discussion here. A lot of questions. We're very happy. And so thank you so much for joining. We'll have another online events by next week. You'll get information on that via email, or you can find them on our webpage or LinkedIn. If you have any further questions, please get in contact with us. We are more than happy to go into discussion and understand your use case and see if we have a great value-adding solution for you. Yeah, thanks a lot and enjoy the day.
Thank you very much. Stay healthy and all the best. Thank you.
Bye-bye.